This little cabin we built is 14 by 24 with 10-foot high walls, which gave us a loft of 7 foot tall. Although we didn't have a YouTube channel at the time, we did document this build with photos and a little bit of footage. We started with post and beam foundation, dug our holes, let the inspector check it out before we filled them with concrete, played everything according to the permit. And we built up by the road because when you've got a creek, it floods. They do flood. I did recruit a couple of friends for the framing. We tried to get it to the point of drying in. We had a week scheduled, and naturally it didn't work out that way. The materials were 2 days late, and it rained for 3 days, and so we got as far as we could. And it did rain. It was fun though. We ended up getting about 3 good days of work in, and we almost got it framed up. Before we could get it dried in, or the decking on the roof though, it rained again. We ended up having to cover the thing with a giant tarp just to keep it from getting absolutely drenched and soaked. But that was a good move, good investment. Still a little water got in, but it wasn't that bad. At that point, the wife and I would come up on weekends and we took over all the building. We started the build in late August, and fall was here, and so when we'd come up, we'd stay in the cabin with that tarp over it. Man, it was loud. You could hear rain, you could hear cars, you could hear everything. It was like being in a giant drum. But we crank up the kerosene heater and just make a weekend of it. Keep pecking away, working, trying to get her done. We met some of the neighbors a little later on, and they recalled when the cabin was at this point, they thought, why would somebody build a shed right up by the road? The windows were framed from the inside, but I didn't cut out the OSB to put them in until it was time. So I can see why they thought that. The roof we got locally, the guy had 10-foot pieces on sale. They were leftovers, and they worked out perfect for the roof. I knew it would be a while before I got the wood I wanted for siding, so I painted the OSB just to give it some extra life, and it couldn't hurt. I think I had leftover paints I just mixed together to make some kind of primer sealer. The wood came from way south, down by the Okefenokee. I found a guy online that was selling sawmill wood, and I got 1x12s, 10 foot, and 1x3s for the battens. It worked out great. Here you can see I started putting windows in as the siding came around. The wood I chose for the siding was heart pine, and it is so heavy and so thick that even the carpenter bees are leaving it alone, which I'm pretty happy about. The windows I got were old wavy farm glass, so I protected them with shutters. I thought, hey, a lawnmower or anything could wreck that. On the gables, I put cedar shakes. I thought it gave it a good look. The couple of acres we bought up here on this Brasstown Creek came with 2 septic tanks and a well. We never intended for this to be off-grid, although I might add some solar backup power later. But everything was here. This was a vacation getaway for us. That's what we put together. Because we were close to the road, I planted about 100 trees, kind of making a barrier, mostly cedars and white pines. The stain we picked was a honey-colored cedar, kind of a sealer / stain. Gave us that look we were looking for. At this point, it's probably been about a year we were working on it, and it's coming together, but I don't think a cabin like this is ever finished. One of the latest things was adding the heat. We found a unit online, a do-it-yourself heat and air split unit, whatever they are, and that worked out really good. I was able to cover it up with wood and just make it look presentable. Ended up painting the electrical box to try and match a little bit, the meter box. The trees are growing, I see them there up by the road. And that shed. I had to have a storage building just to keep tools and building materials and firewood. Buying one just didn't seem like the way to go, even that rent to own. So I thought, you know what, I can beat that. I had a lot of framing material left over from some decks I tore apart, so I just built a mini cabin that I tried to mimic the board and batten with plywood and 1x2s, but it ended up looking about right. I think it ended up being a pretty good match. I have no complaints about the little storage building. It was 8x8 with a 2x8 foot porch where I keep the firewood dry. It's a good thing I built that thing up out of the floodplain too, because since we've been there 2 years, 3 times the water's come up over the bank, and that creek, that field right there, that lake, that's the creek. It gets crazy. One time, the worst time, it took this 4x4, it was probably 300 pounds when it was wet. The old pump house, it just floated it and just tore everything up. So I had to start over, dig down a little deeper and build something out of brick. I kind of just made it look like an old wishing well. Just used bricks, leftover bricks that were laying around, and painted it. Found some old chicken house tin, and I just tried to make it look like it belongs there. I think it worked out. Now there's a bucket hanging on it. Eventually it became time to build the back deck, and there's a little 3x3 landing that we started with our portable shower. That was before the water was hooked up. Remember, premium for lumber at that time, it was just ridiculous. It was so high I couldn't build the back deck that I wanted. But when it came down, I added on. I think I'm 8x12 now. And I did add some railings with hog wire, and I will eventually add a roof. Man, the projects never end. It took almost 2 years of weekends to build this little getaway spot, but it was really worth it. And every time we do something else and add something on or come up with a new idea, it's just fun. Hey, we made this little dream of ours come true, and so can you. Thanks for coming along. See you next time.